or is technology only part of a much deeper issue? And that's exactly what we're talking about. There's been a lot of conversations, like I said, around data-driven solutions when it comes to our taxation system. We're going to talk about all of that very, very soon. But to help us unpack this, I have Francis Timor Boy. He's a tax consultant, and he joins me this morning for this conversation. Hi, Francis, good morning. You're welcome to the Business Breakfast on ZED.
Good morning, Nii, and thanks for having me.
Well, thanks so much, too, for making time to join us this morning. So let's get into our conversation this morning. We're starting from the basics. Of course, we know that Ghana has struggled for years with revenue mobilization. Many people actually comply, but others don't. And there's a widespread feeling that the tax system is uneven and sometimes even unfair. From your professional experience, why does tax compliance remain such a big challenge in Ghana?
Okay, so to start with, tax compliance, just like you said, remains a challenge in Ghana due to multiple factors. And one of them is that our economy largely is informal driven. When I say informal, you wouldn't find a structured way of people doing business. Many people working, trading, and earning income. But those activities are not well documented, and so we describe it as informal. And so when transactions are largely cash-based or informal, it becomes difficult for the tax system to clearly see who is earning the income so that we go after them for the tax. Another important factor is that the compliance that we have in Ghana sometimes feels complicated and costly, especially for small businesses and self-employed persons. They see filing of the taxes and then how it is calculated, very confusing and time-consuming and sometimes intimidating. So when the process feels burdensome, people are more likely to avoid it rather than engage willingly. Again, if you are a small business, you see that immediately you register your business, they say go to the tax office and register. So there is that issue of selective visibility. Those who are already registered and trying to comply with the tax system tend to attract more attention from the tax authorities, while others also remain outside the system entirely. So this creates some frustration and perception that honesty is actually being punished. Sometimes our system is such that immediately you walk to the tax office to register, you have not even earned any income. You haven't even started your business, but we say pay an advance tax. The question that most small businesses ask is, where am I going to get the money when I have not even sold a peswa? But the law requires that you register, immediately you register your business. Before you even start working, you have to. And I think that the taxpayers see that as being punished. Then finally, there is a limited trust in the tax system. And that also plays a key role because some taxpayers question whether taxes that they have paid are applied fairly or it translates into visible public services. We check our roads, our lighting system, and all those, and people don't see the need. So when people do not clearly see the link between tax payment and development, compliance becomes reluctant rather than voluntary. So the challenge is not simply unwillingness to pay the tax. It is a combination of the informality of our economy, the complexity of the tax system. Yes, we know the Ghana Revenue Authority and the Ministry of Finance are doing something, and one of them is the modified taxation that has been introduced. And also, a trust system trying to, deal with corruption. But all of these things work together to, hinder the tax compliance level that we have in Ghana. If you listen to the Public Accounts Committee and the way people are mismanaging resources, you question yourself whether it's right to continue to pay taxes and pay it willingly.
I see. So those are the challenges we are getting there. But you see, I often hear people say that why should I pay tax when I don't see the benefits? And you allude to the same fact. How powerful is perception in shaping tax compliance?
It's really not a perception, and people see it. You see, or maybe we can one way or the other describe it as perception. People see it. They look at how much taxes has been collected and how people are really not accounting for their stewardship. We hear of big corruption and money going into people's hands. Indeed, there is research that indicates that when people do not see the value of the taxes that are being paid, they see it as robbery. And nobody will want to be robbed of his hard-earned currency. So the security man who works throughout the night and doesn't sleep wouldn't want his small taxes to go into one person's pocket. I mean, nobody does that. So it plays a key role, and it goes back to how accountability works in our country. Yes, we know the government and past and successive governments are trying to do something about the way public office holders are accountable to the resources that we entrust to them. But there is still a serious gap that needs to be filled.
Right. But I mean, looking at all the things that you mentioned, I didn't quite hear you talk about the weak enforcement. Is that something that also leads to I mean, the reason why the tax compliance remains a challenge here in Ghana?
Yes, in reality, tax compliance in Ghana is shaped by both enforcement and the trust, and the two are closely linked. On the enforcement side, when the likelihood of detection feels low, some taxpayers will take the risk of not complying. After all, nobody will see me. And we see that a lot in the night economy. If you go to our big cities, a lot of economic activity takes place in the night. But because they are cash-based, compliance is very, very weak. And if people believe that non-compliance will go undetected, enforcement loses its deterrent effect. And this is especially true, like I said, in the informal sector, where it is difficult to track. However, enforcement alone is not enough.
Right.
Like I said, trust plays an equally important role. Many taxpayers are willing to comply, but they believe that the system is not fair, and you pay money and it goes into somebody's pocket. So for me, the key lesson is that strong enforcement without trust will lead to resistance, while trust without enforcement leads to leakages. And so there should be a sustained compliance with a balanced enforcement with trust as well. And the combined effect will, help enhance our tax system and then raise the relevant revenue that is needed.
All right. So recently, there's been a lot of talk about data-driven tax administration. I mean, for the ordinary listener listening to us this morning, that phrase might sound abstract. In simple terms, what does it mean when we say tax systems should be data-driven? What does it mean?
So in simple terms, data is becoming central to modern tax administration globally, because the way this generation, the way the current people who live in this world, the way they earn their income, the way they spend, and the way they transact fundamentally has changed from before. Today, you can sit in Ghana and work for a global company in the United States, earn some income. Economic activity is increasingly becoming digital. You can see mobile money transfers, bank transfers, online platforms, POS, and electronic records. So if tax administration does not use data, it simply cannot keep up with this reality. In the past, systems rely heavily on declaration and manual documents. That approach is no longer what we are seeing today. Ask yourself, when was the last time people bought a cassette or CD? Everything today, there's something we call Google Drive. You don't buy discs anymore. So data is, the way people are transacting is now being converted in the form of data. That's why data is becoming critical, and therefore data allows the tax authority to see the patterns rather than treat it in a manual and isolated manner. So with good data, tax authorities can identify gaps between what you have declared as your income and the actual economic activity. So for example, we can track your bank statement and we see a lot of transactions. We compare with how much taxes you have declared. And then we can focus on you and say, okay, looking at your economic transaction, it doesn't reflect how much income you have declared as you have earned. Or even we can even detect unusual and inconsistent transactions. And therefore, that will allow the tax authority to focus on areas of potential risks of non-compliance.
Right.
How do you earn so much money on your bank statement and the taxes you have paid is so small? So it is important that the administration, the tax administration, shift from the manual way of dealing in the past to a more data-driven way of managing systems. E-commerce has come to stay, and the way people dealt with their behavior, their life, has changed. Today, people order food online, and we can see the payment, either mobile money or a Visa card. All of these things help the government or the tax authority to, deal with the current situation we have in the world. So we cannot rely on manual systems anymore because the people you intend to tax have changed. They are now digital, and the things they are doing are in the form of data, and therefore you need to adjust yourself to be able to deal with it.
Right. A very important aspect also is the auditing. In the past or traditionally, audits were sometimes based on suspicion or complaints or even some random selection. What changes when audits and enforcement are guided by data and maybe risk analysis instead?
So the good thing that data brings on board, and especially because the transactions are data, they are in the form of data, is that the data-driven system helps or guides decision making, and they support evidence rather than assumptions. In the past, the tax authorities will audit you rely on random checks or assumptions or based on their intuitions. They sometimes will show up in your office, and then they will try to ask you, bring this. No, things have changed. Now you are dealing with large volumes of data. So with the data-driven system, we are saying that when you have systems in place and you have digitalize it, it will help you identify areas of unusual patterns.
Right.
Remember, tax system rely on self compliance or voluntary compliance.
Yeah.
You are not in my house, so if I don't voluntarily disclose to you, it will be difficult unless you use magic to help you identify what I am doing or what I am declaring. But with the way the transactions are now digitalized, we can use the data, or we can exploit the data to identify unusual patterns, and that will flag some of these transactions for us to focus on. So instead of we doing random checks, you can't do random checks anymore. Let's now focus more specifically data-driven, targeted, risk.
Right.
And when that happens, we can focus our compliance efforts on that. And for me, that's how the world is moving.
But would you say this approach can actually help the GRA focus on high-risk taxpayers while leaving compliant citizens alone?
Of course, yes. This can reduce unnecessary pressure on the compliant taxpayers. One of the biggest sources of frustration for compliant taxpayers is the repeated audited. Sometimes you can be audited for 3 or 4 times because you are the one they see. Okay, and because they rely on their intuition and physical or visibility, all the time they are on you. But a data-driven, risk-based auditing reduces this pressure by recognizing patterns and non-compliance over time. So when a taxpayer regularly files on time, pays correctly, and shows consistent behavior, the system will see this person as a low risk. Let's not waste time there. Then we look at taxpayers where, for example, their bank transactions does not support their income tax declaration, or their bank transaction shows that they are not even in the system for us to even focus on them. Immediately the system will flag you and say, where is this guy getting this plenty money and spending in the malls and buying big cars? We can get data from the port. We see this high value car you have imported in the name of NI. Then we come and check the system and say, NI doesn't even file any tax returns. Then we focus on your say, we can now come to, okay, please, we see some inconsistency in your income versus your economic activity. Can you explain to us?
Right.
This is how tax administration is supposed to be, not the random checks. Sometimes you can't even find them if it doesn't come to your notice with the old system. So data and the new way of, the new way of transaction, let me put it that way, is going to really reduce unnecessary pressure on tax compliance taxpayers.
I see. Now let's talk about artificial intelligence. Now across the world, AI is being used to support tax authorities in selecting audits, identifying compliance gaps, and also improving collection. Where exactly does AI add value in tax administration?
Great. AI adds the most value in tax administration where the volume of data is too large for human to analyze efficiently. But there is still patterns that matters. You see that somebody can import cars into this country more than 4 or 5 times. Ideally, you can tell without even using any data. You can tell that how can one person be buying 10 cars a year? Is a person a car dealer? He buys a car. He doesn't have a shop. He buys a car. He sees somebody who wants to buy. He sells it. The next time he imports one. So with data and AI, we can aggregate the volume of transactions that this particular person living in this country has imported. And it will spot patterns, trends, and anomalies across the volume of data that you have gathered. So it quickly identifies unusual transactions and behavior and then draws your attention that pay attention to this particular thing. So instead of discovering problems years later through audits, AI can flag potential compliance issues that are close or they have already occurred. And this allows the tax authorities to engage taxpayers earlier, normally through, focused evaluations. We can call you that come and explain it. So it is important that where human effort cannot, solve, AI can easily help us identify, and then we focus on it. So it is more like a decision-making tool. It helps you make decisions quickly, especially where volume of data is concerned.
I see. But how do you ensure fairness, transparency, and accountability when AI is involved?
Yes, that's a very important question you've raised. AI is not supposed to, replace human. I always say, whatever AI does for you, you still have to go in there and then make a decision. And let's not forget, AI is just a technology tool to help us make decisions. So it is a decision support tool, not a decision maker. And therefore, it should be used to analyze and identify patterns and flag them. So for fairness, whatever happens, the taxpayer should be given the opportunity to explain. And for me, taxpayers should retain the basic protection, including the right to, challenge the decisions that AI has. AI does not mean that immediately you flag something, then I'm guilty. No. If a system cannot explain why a taxpayer was not flagged, then it becomes a problem. So I agree with you. It should rather enhance professional judgment, but not substitute it. And if it is seen as a decision support tool, the fairness will be there. Taxpayers should be given the opportunity to explain themselves. Granted that I'm importing goods into Ghana, and you think that I'm a high risk person. At the end of the day, if the AI or data analysis that you have points to me that I have some under declaration, I should still be given the opportunity. And that's where we may see the fairness happening.
I see. So just to be clear for our listeners this morning, AI is meant to support human judgment and not replace it, right?
Exactly.
Okay, kindly hold on for me. Let me just announce the phone lines in case anybody wants to join the conversation. So, if you just tune in, this is Business Breakfast on Z101.9 FM with me, Nee Trebi Hammond. And this morning we're talking about data and AI and whether that can fix Ghana's tax compliance problem. We have a big problem when it comes to tax compliance in this country. Everybody knows it. We talk about it all the time. issues coming up or conversations coming up now is as to whether AI and data can actually help us deal with those issues. And that's what we're talking about this morning. My guest is Francis Timor Boy Esquire. He is a tax consultant and he joined us this morning. I mean, he is having this conversation with me. If you want to join the conversation, feel free to send me a WhatsApp on 0544 321019 0544 321019, or you can call me on 030395661 030395661, and then I will give you the opportunity to join the conversation this morning. We're streaming live on Facebook at ZFMGH and also on YouTube at Z Multimedia. Please engage us on those platforms and we'll read your comments for you as well. All right, Francis, let's continue the conversation. And I want us to talk about trust. Now, many experts actually argue that technology alone cannot fix tax compliance. And I think you tried to allude to that fact when we started the conversations. So, I mean, technology alone cannot fix tax compliance if citizens don't trust the system. Can digitalization and AI actually help rebuild trust between taxpayers and the GRA in any way?
Certainly. Technology can help build trust, but only if it is. Yes, so technology can help build trust, but only if it is used in a way that is fair, transparent, and people-centered. You know, trust improves when taxpayers feel the system is the excessive human discretion. You know, one big problem we have with our import duties is sometimes we call something valuation. You go and meet a custom officer and he will value the goods. Now, if technology is able to identify patterns and say, the last time when he was bringing Toyota Corolla into Ghana, we valued at 10,000, and therefore today Timor is bringing the same item. Therefore, the same value should be 10,000. I think this is fairness, and therefore I will trust the system. So when decisions are driven by data rather than personal judgment, taxpayers, I believe, are less likely to feel targeted or treated unfairly. And that's where we see technology, helping building trust. So technology also makes compliance easier because, take for example, online filing, digital payments, automatic reminders, and self-platforms that reduces the stress of uncertainty or calculations. I would rather trust such system than when a human person is sitting there. So I believe that it is important that the system becomes more fairer for taxpayers to also understand why some amount of taxes are being calculated and why they are being paid. Why are you being flagged? When this happens, technology, we can say, can help build trust. But let's have in mind that technology alone is not enough. It must be paired with education and then accountability and then the right of taxpayers. When we balance this situation, you see that trust will be built and we will have mutual trust in our tax system. Trust is one thing that I believe that we lack in our tax system. Some people can bring goods into Ghana at a very low rate, especially at the inland borders, and Togo, coming through Togo or maybe Cote d'Ivoire. Sometimes you see the amount of taxes that are paid there is quite smaller. But where we have system deployed and say whether you are bringing 10 bags of sugar through flour or 10 bags of sugar through Tema, all of these things are valued at the same using the system. I believe that people will trust the system.
Right, people will trust the system. Okay, so for example, faster services, clearer processes, and less human discretion. I'm sure that these are some of the things that we're going to see if we are able to incorporate technology, isn't it?
Certainly. I mean, faster valuations, less human discretion, everything is based on data. You know, computer never lies, and it will treat people fairly.
Hello?
Yeah, I'm here.
Right. Okay, so I was actually going to ask if these things actually genuinely change how people feel about paying tax.
Sorry, Nia, I lost you a bit. If you can take that question again.
Yeah, so I'm asking if these things that we've mentioned genuinely change how people feel about paying taxes.
Yes, it will eventually change the way people will see tax administration in Ghana.
Right.
Number one, because you see, the more we try to digitalize our environment, especially the tax system, it will put some deterrent in the mind of people, such that you can't see the system. And for me, that is a key thing that we have to work towards. So I am for it 100%. We have seen instances where human and manual system, depending on the person you know, and some of the borders are prone to smuggling. If you're able to roll out these systems across all our tax points, certainly tax payment should change in our country. In advanced countries where they have been able to digitalize their system, trust me, things change. Recently, we heard of a story in Japan. We were told that their toll booth was not working. They had a big system issue, and they couldn't fix it. So they opened the toll for everybody to pass. You know what happened? When the system was fixed, people came back and paid the taxes. They came back to pay the toll. And so at the time we were passing, the system was not working. And so you see, they have been used to it, that you can't pass through here without paying the toll because of the systems in place. So if the system is not working, they feel compelled to come back. So digitalization for me is a way to go. And sometimes the only problem we have is the implementation. How are we able to implement it to ensure we derive the largest benefits from it?
Right. So that makes sense. Let's try and touch on some other things, and then we can go. I know Ghana isn't only alone in this journey. Countries like Italy and South Africa have all. They're already using tax data and digital tools to actually improve compliance. From what we've seen globally, which lessons are most relevant and realistic for Ghana?
Yes. So this approach has been effective in countries like South Africa, Italy, Estonia, where they have been able to digitalize their systems such that it has really, really brought efficiency in their tax system, just like you mentioned. So I believe that it is the way to go. Ghana is not the only country. You go to any of the advanced countries, they are using technology as a tool to drive some of this tax administration. Secondly, the use of transaction level visibility, which GRA is trying to do. Take, for example, e-invoicing, which is the electronic invoicing, which reports real-time reporting sales to the tax authorities, has really enhanced, tax payments and reporting. People cannot manipulate it anymore. So I believe that using data to segment taxpayers, using data to help us to deal with the tax administration is not only Ghana. The good thing is that sometimes the World Bank and the IMF sometimes pilot Ghana with some of these things, especially in Africa. And so I can say that in Africa, Ghana is really a bit ahead. Recently I was with some delegations from Congo Brazzaville. They came to Ghana and they are studying how our tax system and administration is working. And they were so impressed. So I believe that Ghana, being one of the biggest economies in Africa, if we're able to do this one, we'll really go ahead of most of our peers in the sub-region.
Right. Let's talk about the shadow economy. Can digital tools like e-invoicing and VAT data analysis realistically reduce tax evasion in an economy with such a large informal sector that you actually spoke about from the beginning?
It can, but it's really a tough. It's going to be a very tough, mountain to climb, because if you look at our economy, people have operated in that sector for a very long time. And the reason why I'm saying it's going to be very tough is that we really need to match it with accountability. We just have to get people automatically and voluntarily say we want to comply with the taxes. And a lot of education needs to go on. In the budget, the government said they are going to roll out what we call the fiscal electronic devices. the fiscal electronic device is like a POS that is going to help government monitor. So you'll be given a POS and all your sales transaction is supposed to go through. Now, the question is, will you get people voluntarily passing through cash transactions? So it must be an end-to-end. Okay, so until we have been able to minimize cash transactions, fact that most electronic payments go through one portal and using some of this AI to aggregate and identify and try to link transactions is really going to be difficult. But it's good that they've started. E-invoicing started somewhere 2021.
Yeah.
It has been met with a lot of challenges. We haven't seen enough progress. But let's see. It's not going to be an overnight, honestly. It's going to be tough. But if we're able to roll it out, trust me, the impact of taxation and development will be felt. Remember, apart from natural resources, the only other avenue government gets money for the roads, for the hospital, is through taxation. And so if we're able to roll it out and implement it very well, we should see a lot of, projects. I mean, there should be railways in Ghana where we avoid some of this traffic situation that we are seeing in Ghana. It should be easy for me to travel from Accra to Kumasi.
Right.
All of these things we expect government to do, but it will depend on how we'll be able to mobilize revenue and tax revenue, especially from the other sectors where we see less tax payment. And less tax payment, largely, we see it in the informal sector. A lot of income earners go on tax. And we don't want to go back to the era where a lot of indirect taxes are introduced. Indirect taxes, you can't avoid it unless you don't consume. That has its also impact on the very poor among the society. So it's going to be difficult, but I think it's doable.
It's doable. Right. And when it comes to fairness, can data help ensure that big businesses and high net worth individuals actually pay their fair share instead of the burden falling on pay-as-you-earn workers and small businesses?
Certainly, data can help ensure fairness across all different tax, groups. The reason is that if different tax groups operate in different ways, for example, a salaried worker with a small market trader and a small, small business enterprise and a large multinational, they do not have the same risk. They don't operate in the same environment, even though they are all taxpayers. So data allows the tax system to see differences among themselves, and then sometimes even develop targeted tax systems to help them. This new modified taxation that has been introduced was largely driven by data. We realized that some people, the largest income they can get for the whole year can be 500,000. So we are saying that if data shows that your income is 500,000, then pay a flat amount of 3%. Why did we come with this 3%? We are saying that it's based on data. With data, we can analyze large volumes of bank transactions and identify and say, okay, you are a high net worth person, therefore come and pay this. With data, we can identify people who own properties in Ghana. So data is a language now. You see, like I said, everything is digitalized. So how can we bring data from Lands Commission to identify the net worth of people, from the Ghana Stock Exchange to identify people who own shares, and or across all government units, payment systems to identify the economic activity of people? A friend of mine was telling me a story that he wanted to buy a car from South Africa. He's a South African. He wanted to buy a car from South Africa. Then he was there and he said the tax authorities called him and said, this car you want to buy, you don't qualify to buy it. So where are you getting the money from? Then he said that they compiled his income from all sources and his tax returns. And they realized that the value of the car he's buying, he doesn't have that kind of money to buy. So where is the source of income? They relied on data because they are communicating among themselves. So I believe that data will ensure fairness in our tax system and reduce the bias.
Right. Right, so that is going to help, and I think it's beyond taxes. It's also going to help us with a crackdown on some of the illegal corruption stuff that we do in this country.
Exactly, 100%. I agree with you. We'll be able to tell this amount of money you are spending. Where is it coming from? You can easily identify, this money laundering, and that's why in some other jurisdictions you can't spend anyhow. They will pick you up. The authorities will question you. Where is this money coming from?
Before you can take any steps.
Yes. Before people can do anything. But I believe that, like I said, the implementation is the main challenge. If you're able to implement it and say all banking records are going to be integrated, all lands commission records are going to be integrated, all mobile money transactions are going to be integrated. With the use of AI, with a click of a button, you can know the economic activities of everybody. And at the end of the day, the authorities can narrow down on some of these illegal activities that you've just mentioned.
Right. Okay, let's bring this home to the ordinary Ghanaian. If Ghana gets data-driven tax compliance right, how does that affect the everyday taxpayer?
So for the ordinary taxpayer, what it means is that there's going to be improved tax compliance. And improved tax compliance means that we're not going to necessarily increase tax rates as you have. Maybe VAT should even be able to come down. COVID-19 is gone. Get One and NHIL should be able to reduce so that when you buy food from the restaurant, the price will drop. That will be the implication to you and I. For businesses, we're going to widen the base. So before, maybe just like 2 million people are contributing to the national target. This time we're going to have about 4 million people. So what you paid or what you contributed, certainly, we are going to share it among ourselves. So there will be lower burden for people, for businesses, and for almost everybody within the country, because we now have the base widened, what we normally call the tax net. And compliance is going to be there. We're going to see a lot more punishment for people who engage in non-compliance. So at the end of the day, we should see tax rates dropping. This morning I saw some, a post from someone, and the person was looking at the personal income tax rate. Denmark had about 56% from if you earn salary, government will take 56%. Then Norway takes about 47.4%. Then when you come to the 35% bracket, we have Mexico, Indonesia, and Ghana. So personal income tax, the highest band is 35% in Ghana. I mean, that's a lot. We have countries like Qatar. Qatar is 0. Russia is 15%. I want to pay tax at 15%, not 35%. So that means that if we're able to fully deploy some of this technology across board, tax payments is going to be easier, and then the base is going to widen, which will eventually force government to reduce the rate that we are seeing on some of the tax bands.
Right. Makes a lot of sense. But some people actually fear that, better systems simply mean more taxes. Does the improved compliance necessarily lead to higher taxes? Or could it actually mean a fairer sharing of the burden?
Yes, it's a fairer sharing. So improved compliance does not automatically mean higher taxes. And I think it is important for every Ghanaian to understand. Improved compliance simply means that more people pay the taxes that already exist, rather than increasing tax rates or introducing new taxes. When a wider section of the economy is captured through the use of technology, especially in the informal sector and places where there's underreporting, the burden does not fall on the same tax compliant people. And government is not forced to go and introduce indirect taxes like e-levy, because government needs money. So in fact, better compliance can reduce the pressure on the GRA or the government to raise more taxes. So if the pressure is reduced, some of the taxes that can be described as nuisance taxes can go, because government will now have more predictable and more bigger pool to fetch the tax revenue from. For PAYE like you and I, we expect that tax rate should drop. So it doesn't really mean that we are going to increase, tax rates. As you see, government government scrapped the COVID-19, and they reduced the effective tax rate from 21.9% to 20%. Why? Because they are saying they are betting on compliance. So if compliance increases, you and I are going to have a reduced tax burden.
Right. And that should be something we all should be happy about. All right, our time is up. I'd wanted us to talk about institutions as well, but our time is up and we have to go. Maybe just before we wrap up, for small and medium-sized businesses, how does this approach protect them from unnecessary audits and pressure?
So for small businesses, I think they are well protected because if they are compliant, unless they are not compliant, if they are compliant, they are rather going to be rewarded rather than being treated with harsh. Because right now, it's going to be data-driven, risk-based auditing and contact. Just do your business for a very long time. You may not even see any GRE officer in your office. Why? Because the system is telling you that you are compliant. What is there is what you are reporting. There's no flag. Nothing. The system cannot flag you because you are being compliant. And so if I am able to do my business, I pay the existing taxes, and there's no VAT police. In Abusukan, they used to go and sit in the office, and then when the customer buys, they say, "Let me see the receipt." Like that. It was so intimidating. But that is the only way out because there was no compliance. So I believe that businesses are rather going to benefit if this system eventually leads to a full compliance tax system.
Okay. One important point that keeps coming up globally is that technology must be backed by strong institutions. What institutional reforms are critical for success?
I agree with you. Technology on its own cannot fix tax compliance. So for data and AI to work effectively, institutions must evolve alongside the tools that we are deploying. So the tax administration is the first institution that we are talking about. To what extent are they going to be able to train the people, skills training, to ensure that the system that we are deploying is properly used? Number two, I'm expecting a well-coordinated institution. Bank of Ghana should be able to communicate properly, proper data to GRA. Land Commission should be able to communicate proper data on land acquisition to the GRA. Senate, it should be a well-coordinated environment like we have in other systems. If I trigger a transaction here, somebody sitting somewhere should be able to know that this is what has happened.
Yeah.
And without the institutions coordinating across several agencies, trust me, this technology thing will not work and it will not benefit.
All right, so let's wrap up now. So as we wrap up, let's look to the future. But if Ghana applies these lessons well, what practical changes should we expect to see in the next few years?
I'm expecting a broader and a fairer tax base. More economic activity will be captured in the tax net. Tax rate should drop eventually.
Okay.
And I think that we should get more revenue for some of the big projects that government is expecting. We have seen some relief on the indirect taxes, even though it's not too big. COVID-19 is gone. I still think VAT is still high. The VAT 15% is still high. Because if you add the two levies, it makes it 20%. We should be able to bring it down.
Right.
10%, 12%, so that at least prices of goods and services, I don't see why I'm buying something 100 cedis and I'm paying 20 cedis in addition. It's still high. So if we get the AI and technology well implemented, we should see a number of changes going down. And I think also that institutions communicating with each other should be able to minimize some of these risks that we see around.
All right. Mr. Francis Timobo, maybe your final words and then we can go.
We will encourage the GRA to continue on this implementation. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be a very simple thing. It's going to be tough because Ghanaians have enjoyed a lot of non-compliance over several years. So if you are bringing a change, there's going to be resistance. We'll pray for them to be able to roll it out. And if it is rolled out, I think businesses should embrace it so that at the end of the day, it is the revenue we need for our country. But government has a big role to play, building trust in the system. Sometimes when you listen to Public Accounts Committee and the way money is going down the drain, honestly, it's heartbreaking, and that defeats whatever tax effort that is being pushed.
Right. All right. Anyway, thank you very much. I'm really grateful that you made time to share these insights with us. Thank you very much.
Good to be here. Thank you, and enjoy the day.
All right, you do same. All right, so that was Francis Timor Boy. He's a tax consultant, and he joined us this morning for a roundtable discussion. And this conversation actually reminds us that taxes are not just about revenue; they are about fairness, they're about trust and national development. And so it's been a great conversation. I hope you enjoyed it. You learned a thing or two, and you actually support this initiative when it comes up, when the GRA tries to put in place those things. Let's not resist it, because it's for our own good and for the good of this country and future generations. But thank you very much for listening to us this morning, and thanks so much for staying with us right from 6:15 till now. This has been Business Breakfast on ZED. We're back again tomorrow for more interesting conversations. Until then, please keep listening to ZED 101.9 FM. And when you think Ghana, think ZED. My name is Nitra B. Hammond. I'll see you tomorrow, God willing. Bye-bye.